are recording, and we are live. Perfect. Well, howdy there, daylight burners. Happy, what is it, Tuesday? Hopefully the corona don't got you down. I'm sure you're quarantined or holed up or whatever you got going on. We are sitting around and shooting the shit with Mr. Robert Mallory at Feedlot Bob on Instagram. Follower, listener to the show, and we're gonna just talk some horses, talk some cows, and talk this craziness that we got going on here. So, Bob, what's going on, man?
Not a lot. Just trying to keep up with the times and figure out what we're allowed to do these days.
It's a little bit wild. You prefer Robert or Bob?
Either way.
Yeah, my little girl said Feedlot Bobby. We were talking about it at lunch. So Feedlot Bobby is a new one. But yeah, it's some wild times. So you're up in Oregon, and you guys are under mandatory essential business or non-essential business closures.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what we got. I think like New York is under like shelter in place, which is basically mandatory quarantine, and it's wild. And all of it, for as last I heard, was like 600 total deaths nationwide, which it's not good by any means, not good, but it seems like a little bit of overkill for what we got going on. And I might be way wrong, and I guess I'll admit it if I am, but it just seems like this has just been pushed by the media and the government to just seize control of whatever they can at this point.
Absolutely. And you know, I think it's something we should absolutely be cautious about, but it's concerning to see the kind of the power grab that they're not even really trying to, there's no pretense about it. They're just unashamedly going forward and decreeing all these things by law. And, you know, I think it sets a really dangerous precedent, honestly.
Oh, I think so too. And I think the like, as much as I like some of the stuff that Trump does, he's got some very serious tendencies towards just grabbing control, because he was the CEO of a company. He was the guy, and in a corporate environment you can't do that. It is more of a dictator type deal as a CEO, but as a president, you're the anti-dictator. You're supposed to be anyways. Yeah. And he hasn't done much to like really seize executive power. But the problem is, if he ever did try, almost all of his supporters would just fall right in line with him, even though they claim to be like small government patriot types. And that's the part that scares me about Trump.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And, it's something I talk about a lot with my friends and my wife and everything. But, it seems crazy to me that on one side, and it seems to be more from the left, that they want the government to have more and more and more and more power, and the executive to have more and more and more power without any due process. But at a certain point, the pendulum's going to swing the other way. And that's what we're seeing with Trump, that, people are calling and saying he's a dictator. And it's like, well, you shouldn't have given the executive so much power.
That's exactly right. Like the whole time Obama was in office, I remember saying, like, you don't want to support these executive orders that he does. Like, you don't want to do that, because eventually there is going to be a Republican in office. And yeah, now we got Trump, and to his credit, he has remained pretty well within the law, it seems like, or at least hasn't gone any
Yeah.
further than the previous presidents. Like, there's even his like more controversial stuff. It really hasn't gone much further than what the previous presidents have done. So legal or not,
Yeah.
he's basically just kind of going along with the way it has been, except he doesn't sugarcoat it. And the good thing about him is he's kind of exposed a lot of people for what they are, and he's exposed the system for what it really is, and that these politicians will take whatever side is necessary to pit them against the other side and win favor with their base. So, you know, the whole time Obama was in office, it was just like the debt is at a dangerous level. It's at a dangerous level. And as soon as they get power, what do? They spend even more money than Obama ever did. And it's, well, where's the small government, guys? Where's the fiscal conservancy?
Right.
Where's the sound money all of a sudden? And then, yeah, they vote like 57 times to repeal Obamacare, and then they finally have a chance to do it. And old ass John McCain blocks the vote. It's like, you guys are a freaking joke. Both parties, it's the same exact thing. They're fighting over, instead of if it really was the capitalist versus communist fight that they're talking about, it'd be all the taxes versus no taxes. But instead they're arguing over like a 35% tax versus a 39% tax. And it's like, which one wants to steal more of your money? It's not about doing anything for the people. It's just, what can they get away with?
Yeah.
And well, as we've seen, they can get away with a lot because people just let them. But it's wild. I don't know. I hate, I feel like I've just been talking this stuff nonstop for the last couple of weeks, but that's all our lives have been. So I mean, kind of, it's relevant. So as much as I hate it, it's just weird. It's a weird time. And I don't know quite what to make of it yet.
Yeah, it's completely unprecedented, and it's just, it causes everyone to feel very uneasy.
Yeah, I just read a headline. I didn't get a chance to read the article. It was from Fox News, and they said there's like light at the end of the tunnel, and White House proposes a $6 trillion stimulus plan. Like, that is a year and a half's entire budget in a stimulus plan. I mean, and I don't, I feel bad for everybody that's out of work, but $6 trillion, like that's just made up money at that point. I mean, that is just make believe land. It's
I've got a buddy here who came to visit me, and he said the other day, put it in a really good way that I liked how he said it, that by the time this is all said and done, and they can send us $1,000 or whatever it is they're planning to do, but at that point, here in the near future, if things don't change pretty drastically, that paper money that you have is going to be worth about what it's printed on.
Yeah, it really is. It's like we're on the way of, like the Germany in the 20s, Venezuela currently. I mean, you know what? The first thing Venezuela ran out of was toilet paper under socialism there. So we're not that far off. And they pumped $1.5 trillion into the stock market already. They spent $8 billion on emergency relief already, and now they're proposing a $6 trillion. And now I don't know what the rest of that article said, just to be right out front. I just saw the headline of $6 trillion, and the last I had heard was $2 trillion, which I thought was outrageous. And now they're saying 6, and I was like, holy shit. And it's I don't know what the hell's going on. I better have a lot of beans, a lot of ammo, and have some gold wherever you can get it. I think. I don't know how Bitcoin works, so I'm not gonna tread into that territory, but I know how gold works.
Yeah, yeah, and unfortunately, it seems like it's going to take something like an economic collapse, like we might be looking down the barrel of, for people to realize that these arbitrary numbers that they're just throwing out and trying to pump into the economy, that people like us who've been screaming this stuff from the rooftops aren't just crazy people. That it's not going to work.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I just do you listen to Ron Paul at all? Like,
Yeah,
he is when every time I just not real for sure what's going on. Like, I go see what he has to say about it, because he's been right on just about everything in my lifetime.
yeah,
Like, he called the '08 financial collapse. Everybody said he was crazy. He called that, getting bogged down in Iraq was a mistake. People said he was un-American, and he's just been right on all of it. And he's like, this virus is a serious deal, but the real problem is what's happening to the economy, and especially if they keep pumping more just fake money into the system, it's going to collapse. And as much as I know how bad it's gonna. Well, I don't know how bad it's gonna be, but I know it's gonna be bad. You almost think that just get the Band-Aid off now. Just rip it off. Let it suck really bad for a little bit, but let everything reset, and maybe we can get onto some sort of stable currency instead of just printing money and waging war in the Middle East so we can keep control of the petrodollar. That's really the whole thing. And I don't know. It's not looking good. As I don't know where it goes from here, but I'm a little worried about it.
yeah, me too.
It's I don't know. Maybe Trump's got something good up his sleeve, but everything I've been hearing is just more of what got us here. So I'm not real hopeful, but we could go on and be doom and gloom for hours. But I think everybody's probably had enough of that. So let's talk some of your horses. I see you're kind of a spade bit man, which makes sense being in Oregon, West Coast. You're kind of the Great Basin buckaroo type.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess how'd you get started in the horses? You come from a ranch background?
Actually, no. I didn't ride growing up. Wasn't really around horses growing up. I grew up kind of back and forth between kind of suburbs and rural type area. Never really too far from town. And I actually didn't start riding until 2015 when I was 25. And
okay.
I'd gone back to school, and I was using my GI Bill, so I didn't really need to work. It's at a barn not too far from me, and just mucking out stalls and doing that. And so just for something to do, went there working a couple days a week. And I'd always been interested in horses, wanted to learn how to be around them and all that, and ended up taking riding lessons there. And from there, I just was in the saddle as much as I could be, working full-time job once I was done at school, and decided I really liked doing that. And so after I'd been riding for, I don't know, a couple, 2-3 years, and decided I wanted to try go being a cowboy. maybe I watched too many Westerns or something when I was growing up, but found a job. My wife and I had been wanting to move out to Eastern Oregon, because where we live right now, we're in the Willamette Valley, actually not too far from Portland. And
okay.
And so we'd been wanting to move out to Eastern Oregon for a while, and found a job as a pen rider at Simplot Feeders up there in Burbank, Washington, right outside of Tri-Cities. And
okay.
So I went there and worked on the feedlot for, I don't know, a winter while. And it was kind of harder to make a living out there, you know, especially, you know, being a cowboy and with a wife, you know, it doesn't pay the bills exactly. And work was kind of hard for my wife. She's a dental assistant, and there's a lot of work down here where we are, but out there it's pretty few and far between. So we ended up moving home. And well, we decided we probably need to move home, and I got a hold of that guy that had taught me, you know, everything I know really. Nick Donahue is his name. He's out here in Banks, Oregon, and he was looking for an assistant trainer at that point, because his business was growing. He had quite a few horses in, and you know, work something out. He gave me the opportunity to come work for him. Riding training horses, starting colts and that. And so when we moved home and started doing that.
Nice. And so that was like just reining, or is it rein cow horse, or?
He's gotten starting to move more into the rein cow horse. He's, you know, ridden with Buck Brannaman for a really long time, and, you know, kind of does those Brannaman, Ray Hunt, Dorrance kind of, you know, way of going about things. And so his business was mostly colt starting and problem solving, that kind of stuff. And but a few years ago, we started actually showing in some stock horse shows. There's an organization out here called Western States Stock Horse, part of the American Stock Horse Association. And we started showing, and it's really been a neat thing to watch how he's kind of made the transition to showing horses, but without sacrificing, you know, the things that got him there. And you know, him kind of figuring that stuff out and sharing that with all of us. You know, he doesn't try to hold on to anything and, you know, have the secrets or anything like that.
Yeah.
You know, he's shared that with all of us, and he's really getting into the reined cow horse stuff. So we've been doing a little more of that.
Nice. That's how you know somebody knows they're pretty good, is if they're not afraid to share their secrets. You know, they'll be like, hey, it is what it is, but I'm better at it than you are. So, you know, here's what I do, but you're not gonna do it better than me. And
Yeah,
exactly. I respect that. Yeah, I've so stock horse, is that the same thing as rein cow horse? I guess I'm not familiar with that association.
Oh yeah, so yeah, and you know, these are the only shows I've ever done is with that organization. So I don't know exactly how it works everywhere, but these ones, they've got 4 classes. So there's pleasure, which, you know, you just run a little course, do a bunch of transitions, make them look pretty, you know, follow the pattern. There's the reining, which is, you know, what you think it is. There's a trail course, and then there's a cow horse one, which is that reined cow horse. And they've got different different divisions, you know, from novice all the way up to open. And the number of divisions that they have makes it really easy to you know, be showing with people of your approximate skill level, whether it's for the rider or the horse, and, you know, still be able to be competitive. There's a lot of room to move around. And for the cow horse in the open, which is, you know, what like what I show in, it's more like a kind of more like the fence work part of the reined cow horse, where you go box it and then turn it down the fence and then circle up with it, and all the way down to you know, like the novice is they kind of go run a little dry work pattern and then just go box the cow. So it's really versatile, and they're kind of the same way. That organization is there. Everything is about, you know, your horse. It's about safety and the welfare of your horse.
I see. That's cool. I like watching the reined cow horse. I really like the ranch horse Versatility, where you got to rope the steer as well. That's always pretty fun to watch. That shows a really good all around horse. If you can, you know, you can nail the reining pattern, you know, slide, stop, spin, all of that. Box your cow, turn them back down the fence, and then go out and rope it and work your rope. That's pretty cool. I like watching. I've never been really around those shows. I've got an older sister that shows horses for a living, and she's very good at it on the hunter jumper end. But I've never really been in the show scene. But I like watching the, you know, like anything from the reining all the way to the like ranch horse Versatility, or just straight cutting horse. It's really neat to watch. I mean, those are some just amazing animals, and the trainers too are that's pretty awesome to watch. Yeah,
and you know, I like I said, I can't speak for what other organizations or other shows are like, but I know for me, when I started showing, the environment that they've cultivated is not what I had in mind when I think of horse shows, you know, and show horses. And there is some versatility in there. I'm not sure how it is in the reined cow horse, but like in the cow horse in this one, they'll let you, after you've done your fence turns, they'll let you either circle it or rope it to stop it. So there's a little versatility there too. And I always rope it just because, you know, why wouldn't you get your rope down?
Yeah, exactly. If you got a chance, why not?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. Really cool. I got this GoPro the other day, and that thing is amazing. It's I don't have it. I do have it right here close, but it's.
Oh, I saw a video you posted the other day.
I'm not a very good roper, but I can make myself look really good on these things, which is awesome. That's what I need. It's that big. It just sits on my chest harness, or it's got a chest harness deal, and I've got one for my, you know, like a headband too. But that thing is really cool. And it wasn't all that expensive, you know, for what you can do. I tried live streaming the other day, but they've kind of got the internet throttled down right now with everybody being quarantined, so it didn't come out very good. But it's amazing what you can do with that thing. But I can make myself look like a real sure enough Vaccaro Roper if I get enough takes and I get enough editing time. I can make it look really cool.
Sure.
I've got one. I was trying to, you know how at the corner, like at the pad for the feed bunk meets the cross fence, like right there, they're always behind that bunk pad. There's always a deep hole, because they all stand right at that corner, wait for the feed truck, and they piss and shit right in that corner, and it gets just deeper in hell. And I had this one, and we had a big mud hole at the gate, and this heifer, she was sicker than hell, didn't want to come out, and she just kept balking at that water every time. So I got her in that corner, and I was wanting to throw a backhand, but she wasn't turning back into me. I could have roped her, but she would have backed right out of it. And so I tried to overhand it, and I hit her right in the middle of the hip. I've got it all on camera. I'm gonna make a video and say like my rope was defective and tag Cowboy Cordage in it and see if I can get a refund.
There you go. Yeah, whenever I'm having a hard time, I say that King Ropes sent me one of them ropes with the figure 8 in it.
Yeah, I rode with a guy. He was I got to get him on the podcast one of these days. He's one of the funnier people I've ever met in my life. But he's like, oh shit, that he's just uncatchable. He can't be roped.
Right.
I got too many misses in this rope. It's brand new. I haven't got all the misses out yet. So
Right.
you can't blame yourself. You got to blame, it's the rope first, and then the horse, and then the cow. There's always something.
Yeah. Like I was saying, that the guy's working for, he always says it's got to be someone's fault and it can't be mine.
No, I've got a long list, and if I blow through that list where it finally gets to where it's my fault, then we're in a bad shape. But it's
Right.
the rope is my first. It's either the wind or figure eight or something. It's something. It's pretty easy to find an excuse. But yeah, I sent that video to the guys over at 310 Ranch Life, and I said, I'm coming for your title as best rope videos on the internet. I said, just don't make me rope a real cow. I can rope these Holsteins all day long, but if I get something that actually runs,
Yeah.
I'm a little screwed.
Yeah.
But
yeah, when you talk about that GoPro, that's those, I immediately thought of those guys. They post some really cool stuff there.
yeah, it's really, they and they know how to. I don't know if they do all their own editing or whatnot, but they the way they make it work, it looks really awesome. Like they get really cool shots with it, and they're some damn sure good ropers too, so that doesn't hurt. But I'd like to see more. Like I'm gonna try to do more of those on my own, but like I said, I'm not a real wolfy roper. I'd like to see some guys that probably maybe aren't all that technologically literate, but if you can just strap a camera on them and hit record as they're in the branding pin and throwing some really fancy stuff, I think you'd get some really cool footage with it.
Yeah.
I think maybe not during branding season. I'll get a bunch of footage, but once I get around to making videos, I'm gonna have some really cool videos after branding season's done. I'm looking forward to that now that I've got some professional equipment now. I think it'll be pretty cool.
Right. Yeah.
So they I take it most everybody up there in your part of the world, when they brand, they're heading and heeling everything. I would bet.
Yeah, for the most part.
Those are the funnest. I don't know if I would do it if they were my calves. I think I'd probably just heel and drag, but head and heel is a lot of fun. It's and if you got good ropers out there, it's you can get a lot of work done pretty quick. But I sure enjoy it.
Yeah.
I'm guessing everybody out there is packing 60-foot ropes and silver and taps and the whole shebang out there on the sagebrush sea.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's some pretty good ropers up there, I'd imagine too.
Yeah, and when I was working on the feedlot there, not so much but I go out.
Oh, you cut out there. I didn't catch that, but go ahead.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, my internet I think is a little touchy here too. I was saying that when I was on the feedlot, we didn't do so much in the pens, but on my time I go ride with the pasture guys, and there are some real handy guys out there, real handy ropers.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, there's so back where I grew up, short ropes and either dallied on rubber or tied hard. But there's a lot of wheat pasture out there. So, and most of the time it's a quarter section, hot wire fence around it. And so you got to get a jump on one, and you got to got him roped and stopped before he blows through hot wire fence, and then you're gathering cattle and fixing fence the rest of the day. But so a lot of those guys tied hard, and the guys that do it a lot, man, they're really really handy, especially getting something stopped when you're tied hard without just getting a real nasty jerk on your horse. It's it takes some skill to do that, but it's just kind of different terrain calls for different equipment. But I got to where I really like the long rope and a slick horn. I still ride a swell fork saddle. That's just I don't think I'll ever get over that. I don't mind a wade. I think they're comfortable, but I like a set of swells in front of me. But unless I'm team roping, I probably won't put rubber on my horn. And maybe if I'm riding a colt or something, I'll throw some rubber on just for a little more control. But I really like being able to rope, get an animal slowed down before you have to get him stopped, and it saves on your horse, saves on your cattle. And hey, when you get some smoke, boiling up off the horn, that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, it'll make the videos a lot cooler.
Yeah, I hopefully I can I had one really good shot like that last year at a Brandon. They were going to the fire pretty, at a pretty good clip, and the healer missed, so I had to haul ass up there, and it was pretty lucky shot. I got 2 heels and just took a wrap and just let it slide as they're going to the fire, and I had smoke boiling off my horn, and I took 2 more wraps right as they got there and stretched him out. I didn't even have to flank him or anything. I won't ever be able to do it again, but it was pretty damn cool that one time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wished I would have had the GoPro then, but it was there was actually witnesses on that one, so I can claim credit to it. So, but
yeah, you're talking about those riding a swell fork saddle. They're awfully nice to have during a winter on a feedlot.
Oh yeah, and I like riding oxbows, but I don't in the feedlot. Or well, at least not in the winter. It's it's really nice on on a cold back horse, because you can get a hold and and stay in the middle pretty easy. But if that horse is going down, it's pretty hard to get kicked loose of those suckers and not get pinned underneath. So I busted one of my bell stirrups earlier this year, and so I had to throw my oxbows back on, and I've been riding them all winter, and luckily it hasn't been too wet, so I haven't been. But I ride with my feet about half in at times, and I really just need to buy a new set of bell stirrups. I just haven't got around to it yet.
Yeah.
So I'm not real familiar with that. Like, I know some of the makers of the Spade Bits and stuff, but I don't know much about the Spade Bits. I'm more of a grazer bit type, and more than anything, being the feedlot, I like a broken mouthpiece, just for some lateral movement. But what's your favorite like type of spade bit? I know there's several different styles, and I'm just not familiar with any of that.
I actually don't own any Spade Bits yet at this point. My horse just isn't there. I actually just put her up into the 2 rein, but I was, from what I've heard, and you can kind of get as high up there as you want with them. I know there's a guy in I think he's in California, John Peters, who makes some really nice spade bits that
okay, I've heard that name. I don't know any of them, but I've heard that name.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot too. I really like Mincer Silversmith. They're I like, just visually their work, and I've heard a lot of people say their horses really like their Spade Bits too.
Mm,
But I've heard that if you don't have a whole lot of money to spend, that Jeremiah Watts, for the price that they're not
yeah,
super expensive, but really really good bits.
yeah. Well, there's a guy out of Silver Lake. I had him on the podcast, Matt Wilson, that makes bits, and I think his for like a full silver mount spade. I think he's charging like 650 or something, which isn't terrible
Oh,
for a
that's not bad at
handmade
all.
bit. Yeah, and he makes some really cool stuff. He had he just made one the other day. I forget what style it was, but I think it was kind of a like a Mona Lisa type mouthpiece, if I remember right. Uh, and the guy wanted a coyote on it, so he on the Tulin he did Wile E. Coyote, and then on
Uh-huh.
the maker stamp he put Acme. it was
Oh,
it was
nice.
pretty awesome. Yeah, it was really really unique. I was pretty impressed with it. So I've got a little yellow mare that I'm gonna try to put in the bridle at some point, and I'm gonna have Matt make me a spade bit, because why not? I've rode a lot of
Yeah.
horses, and I've rode just about everything except a spade bit. So I figure might as well try to finish one out in a spade bit, and I like that Matt Wilson guy, so I think I'll have him make me one.
Yeah. Yeah,
They
I'm still learning. I know you can do this, your whole life and never really be an expert on it, but I'm really still soaking up, as much knowledge and experience as I can with bridal bits, and there's a lot to it.
Yeah, there really is. I've learned a lot just in on a hackamore here here in the last year or so, and so I've got a little more appreciation for the for like the old California style stuff. It's still I'm a little too impatient for a lot of it, and impatience never good with a horse anyways. But so like I try I know I try to know when I'm pushing too hard, or where when I'm doing more harm than good. Um, but there's some of the stuff about like the Buckaroo traditions is just it's so much more laid back than back home, and you're just like, well, can we speed this up a little bit? Let's get something done, sometimes, and it's just it's a different type of mindset on the out here on the West Coast than it is on the high plains. It's I think more than anything, like especially the Buckaroo style horsemanship, it all kind of originated out of Spain and California. So it was like kind of almost perfect weather year round, so you could spend the time and really go slow and fine tune a horse, where on the high plains, in the summer it's really fucking hot, and in the winter it's really windy and pretty goddamn cold. So like you want to get your stuff done as soon as you can, so you can get out of the elements. And so you want your horse the same way, like 10 rides in the round pen. All right, let's go to work. Let's make a horse out of you. And and if you listen to the Buckaroo times, well, you're skipping like 9 steps in the process there. Like, yeah, I know, but I need them to work now. So it's kind of, I'm trying to find a kind of a happy medium there. But I think this little yellow mare, she's got to where she's really flexing nice in a hackamore. And and if I need to go do a serious job, I can throw a bit in her mouth and go do it. But I'd like to finish her out in the bridle at some point. She's really looking like she might make one. So we'll see how it goes. I think I'm gonna put shoes on her here in a couple weeks, and get her tuned up for branding season, and the 2 reins. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and in that hackamore will really kind of force you to slow down and think and figure out how to do it right, because it's a big bluff. They can really blow through that if they want to.
Oh yeah, when they figure out that that all you've got is a piece of rawhide, and it's only gonna hurt for a minute, and they can still just run off. Once they figure that out, like, yeah, you're in kind of a bad spot. So you don't just jump them into something unless you got a seat. You got to ease them into things with a hackamore.
Yeah, and you're saying about in old California and stuff, how they took so much time. They had nothing but time, and they would just take the time that it took. And I think that in this kind of today's society that we have, where everything's instant gratification, everything's hurry up, and I know that's the way I am, that I'm just go, what's next. I think that's really what I get so much out of it, just being absolutely forced to take my time, think, and even if I've checked if I think that I've got every box checked, the horse might tell me I have it, and I gotta just I'm on his time, not mine.
Yeah, I was trying to explain to some of my city buddies, like, some of my college buddies, they're all, very, very much like suburban or they weren't inner city, but like very urban type people. And, and they were like, why are cowboys so like cocky? Like, why do they have that swagger about them all the time? And I was like, it's not really a bluff. Like, everybody, like every cowhand's got a little bit of a swagger, but a lot of that's because they don't walk right anymore because they've had wrecks. So like it's a limp more than a swagger. But
Right.
you can get humbled real quick, no matter how good of a horseman you are, no matter how handy of a rope or whatever, how big of a hand you are. You can be humbled real quick by just a squirrely animal, whether it be a horse, whether it be a cow, whether it be a jackrabbit that jumps out in front of your horse, or a pheasant or something. You can be humbled just real quick. But at the end of the day, you are riding an animal that's going to weigh anywhere from 800 to 1,300 pounds, or 1,500 if you got like a big draft cross. And you are bending that animal to your will to move just as big of an animal, but that's way dumber. And you're using that animal to move another animal. And at the same time, you're just a little bitty bag of meat on top of it, but you've got superior intelligence, and you're using your brain power and a few tricks up your sleeve to control 2 different types of animals. And when you get that done, it's a pretty big sense of accomplishment. And so, yeah, you're gonna stick your chest out a little bit more. And I don't know, it's just it's a weird way to make a living when you think about it in the long run, but it's pretty damn cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's humbling, if you kind of get your ass kicked a little bit, but it's also humbling in another way when you just think about, I was thinking about this as you were saying that there is this huge animal that, could really take you down if it had a mind to, if they knew how powerful they were, and that they let us do all the things that we do with them. And that's just a humbling thought to me.
Yeah, it's and especially a horse. Like, a horse is each animal is very unique. Like, you can have a gelding from the same line of Hancock blood or whatever bloodlines, from the same parents, and have two completely different animals. Same, two colts from the same exact dam and sire, and you have two completely different horses. What they have the exact same genetic makeup, but they have different personalities, and
Oh yeah.
they'll have a lot of similarities, but they're going to be two completely different animals. Cows are not quite as individualistic. They're more of a, you know, you seen one, you seen them all, but you get a few here and there.
Yeah.
They get a little high-headed, or and herds differ depending on the area, depending on the environment, depending on the owners. Um, but every single horse is different. I've never met two horses the same. I've seen some that were very similar, but I've never seen two the same. And so that's just part of the allure of of cowboying. Is like it's not an easy job. There's not much to it, but there's not an easy job. I mean, you're taking care of cows, you're fixing fence, you're putting up hay, but it all, at the end of the day, you're taking care of cows. But it's a lot harder. I mean, there's a lot more to it than that. It's not a hard, or it's not an easy job. There's not much to on the face of it to understand, but like once you dig into it, there's a lot there, and it takes just a different type of mindset. You've really got to enjoy it and love what you do, or you'll learn to hate it real quick.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a thinking man's game, because it can be hard enough just managing yourself, making your own decisions, and having a piece of equipment that is going to do the same thing every time. But like you're saying, every horse is different. They've got a mind of their own, and it might be the same horse, but he might be different than he was yesterday. And so you've got to manage yourself, you've got to manage that horse, you've got to manage those cows. And as routine as working on a feedlot can be, it can be a little unpredictable at times too. And so it's I don't think that a lot of people don't appreciate what goes into it, not just the physical labor, but the mental.
Yeah. Well, and I've talked about it several times, but like there are people that just do not have the ability to read a cattle's behavior, and 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 that part, I think, a good horseman will naturally make a good cowman. Uh,
Yeah.
but like being able to control cattle does not necessarily translate to horses. I've known a lot of people that can sort cattle really good on the ground and can't ride a horse to save their life. Uh, but I've yet to meet a really good horseman that can't figure out how to work cattle. Like they may not have done it before, so they don't know what they're doing. But if they're good with a horse, they can figure out on a cow. Like they can figure it out real quick. And it just the biggest telltale sign, if somebody can do that or not, is when, say, whether you're gathering a feedlot pen or you're gathering a pasture or even a grazing permit, but when you're trying to bottleneck them down, whether they're going through a gate or if you're holding road deer, if you see the waspy cow in the middle pick her head up and scan around, whoever she locks on, that person cannot read cattle. Or if she gets by that person, you'll know it, because if she looks at somebody and you see them slide their horse over, she's not going to try it. But if he don't move, or leave, even like take a step back, she'll find him and she'll get by him, almost guaranteed. And that's always kind of the first telltale sign. Like if you're trying to bunch them up, either holding road deer or pushing through a gate, crossing a creek or whatever, and whoever lets one by, if you're holding, just, you've got them holding there, and you see one, just poke her head up, and she gets by somebody that, well, they probably just can't read cattle, because I don't know, they have an instinct. They'll find that person every time, it seems like.
Yeah, and it's no different than when you're working on a horse. That timing, Ray Hunt used to talk about a lot about what happens before what happens, and if you can spot that cow when she's looking, before she's got her head up, tensed up, ready to make a break for it, you can turn your foot a certain kind of way and change your mind.
I there was a guy that came over to Grant County feeders when I was riding there, and that's a great big feedlot. Like 100, it was 100, and we hit the record capacity the first summer I was there. Is 126.5, about something like that. 126,000 head though. It was massive.
Wow.
And they had this, I forget the guy's name. I want to say it was like Ray Wolf or something like that. It was Ray something. I told somebody it was Ray Hunt, just because that was the first name that popped into my head, and their jaw dropped. And I was like, oh no, not the Ray Hunt. But I think it was Ray Wolf was his name, maybe. But I seen him. He was pulling. We were pulling shipping bullers, and he said, well, let me try this by myself. And so, and you know how those big fat bowlers get them, and they're just bouncing around.
Yeah.
And he was like squawking, and like he's making these little weird movements, but every time that steer would look back, he just like raise his hand, and then that steer would just bump around. And he looked goofier than a pet coon, but like that, every time he did that, that steer would bump his head. So now I do that all the time, like when you do that, you can give them a lot wider berth. So, you can have them at like a 45-degree angle and have them kind of a long ways out there. And just a little movement like this will keep them turned into the fence, so that they're always looking at the gate. And it was one of those, it always stuck out in my head, because I've never been a big like clinician guy, but I learned a lot just from watching that guy for, about an hour, I guess. And so those guys do have their place. I give them hell a lot, but they do serve a purpose, and if you take the time to listen, anyways.
Yeah, and you're talking about watching that guy. That's probably the best part, but for me, also the most frustrating part is watching someone do something, see how well it works, thinking, all right, I got this.
Yeah.
And then, I got to figure out when they do it. and
that's exactly
the challenging part.
Yeah, it's all timing, and that's and when you finally get a horse to sync up with you like that, because like you can have a horse that's really cowy, they just don't know when to use it or when not to use it. But if you get one that's like really, you can always tell like when they get into like that cat mode, they just kind of hunker down, and instead of having like a ball in their back, like their back almost has like a hump to it, and so you're just like, you're sitting right down there with them. And then I got a little mare that's like that, and it's just a bump, and when you get them in tune, I had a little gelding that I was riding for my dad he had a lot of cow sense to him, but he was more of like an arena rope horse type bloodline. Like he was Hancock driftwood, and he had some cow horse in there, but he was mostly speed and bone. And so his lateral movement was not really good. And then just all of a sudden one day I bounced, we bounced this heifer off the fence and turned her into the gate. And like something like clicked with him right there. And after that, like he was a catty son of a bitch. And like, so he turned out to be a really, really nice horse. My dad's got him now, but it was just, like I could always get by with him pulling cattle, like cutting, but it was like you had to steer him. He wasn't like he kind of had some know-how to him, but it was more you had to plow rein him around. And then whenever
Yeah.
that clicked for him, and then he just figured out like, oh, I can leave my ass in set and move off the front end. And then he just figured it out. And then so every time we'd take one down the fence, he's almost side passing with him, just like ready for him to break. And it was really cool. I remember that exact moment, and just like he was like, oh, this is what we're doing. And that's a really, really cool feeling. That's like you're like, you're like your brains are in touch, and you're just like, fuck yeah, we know what's going on now.
Yeah, absolutely. My mare, my personal horse, she's cow horse bred, and so she'd hook onto a cow and everything, and she's certainly athletic enough to do everything. But yeah, I pretty much learned how to work cows on her, and when I got her, we were both pretty green, but
Yeah.
I'd just get in her way so much that she'd get frustrated and kind of lose confidence. And I think a lot of what that is you can make yourself pretty heavy on them and get in their way. And I think a lot of it, at least for me, was probably, even though I didn't realize it, ego, thinking I'm trying to work this cow, and then when I took her to work on the feedlot, that's probably the best thing that I've ever done for that horse and for me, really. But kind of when things get fast, you kind of gotta learn how to get out of the way. And once I figured out how to get out of her way and just let her do it, she really figured out how to do that.
Yeah, there's I really like working on a horse in the feedlot. Like there's no substitute for just making a big loop. Just whether it going across a plowed field or across the desert or up the mountain, but just stretching them out and letting them run a little bit. There's nothing that can replace that, but you can really put a nice handle on a horse in the feedlot just because they have to. Like, you got a job to do, and most of your job is nothing more than opening and closing gates all day long. Like,
Yeah.
you might pull a lot of cattle, but still the most of your work done is opening and closing a gate. And it's nothing but footwork all day long. And so by the time they get used to that routine where they can just open the gate, close the gate, walk to the water tank, walk to the bunk, make your little path, and go to the next gate. And once they get that down, like all you have to do is just bump a rein, pick it up, and they know what you're doing, and their feet move along with them, and that's nice. You're not just pulling their head, like, just a little subtle pressure, lift of the rein, and they're off they go. And it doesn't take very long to do that to a horse in a feedlot, just because of sheer necessity. You have to get your job done. And,
Right.
And some pick it up faster. Some people are better at teaching it, but like I've not met a whole lot of feedlot horses that didn't have a decent handle to them. I've met a lot of shitty feedlot horses, but they all had like some sort of handle to them. And I don't know, it's just they can get sour pretty quick if you don't ride them right. If you camp out on one or whatever, they can get pretty sour pretty quick. But you can really teach them a lot. You can make I forget who told me. It was an old ranch cowboy, but they'd done some feedlot work, and it might have been Waddy Mitchell, I think, that said it. But he's like, he said you can make a horse that doesn't cow at all pretty dang cowy, and you can take a horse that's just a little bit cowy and make them superhuman cowy in the feedlot, but it's just out of necessity and repetition. Um, but you can burn one out. You can really kind of cripple a horse in the feedlot if you don't take care of them. But that's just like anywhere else. If you don't take care of them, they're not going to hold up for you.
Yeah, using them that way, you can make a very, very nice horse, and it doesn't take much, but depending on the horse, some more than others, but it doesn't exactly take much, but you gotta always be working at it. You can't fall asleep on them or
No.
You get out of them what you put into them.
Yeah, exactly. That's probably the best way to put it. Like I said, I've seen a lot of like company horses that have been rode by 100 people, maybe more, and some were good hands, some weren't, most of them weren't, and you just got kind of a wore out old plug, but they know what the job is, and if you make them do it and you get it to them, they're like, hey, no, I'm not just another rider. Let's go do some work. Like I've got along with some company horses that everybody else hated, but like I didn't just treat them like a slave like most people did. It's like, well, my good horse is lame, so I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go slave on this horse because we haven't rode him in a while. But if you treat him like a horse, you got to get a job done on him. A lot of times you can make them work for you, and and the people that just don't take the time don't get along. It's just, every horse is different. Every rider is a little bit different, but there's some things that work, every time. Sometimes some things don't work on other horses. It's just it's kind of a crapshoot, but you gotta be on your toes so you can figure it out as you go, because if you don't figure it out as you go, you're gonna end up on your head a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you get to do much day work out there where you're at? Is that kind of cow country there, or?
Not where I'm at now. Where we were living a little bit further east, yeah, there's always someone who needs help doing something. Out here, it's more kind of few and far between. I'm more in like the timber country, and
okay.
So you got to drive a little ways. But if you know, the more people obviously, the more opportunities there are to get out and do some of that. And there's a lot of really good country, even not far from where I live, but a lot of it's used for farming. But a lot of times you get kind of so starved for it sometimes, depending on the time of year, that someone wants some help to do something, you just jump on it and just go help them out for the day, and especially because where I am, and it rains so much here in the Willamette Valley, that if you get the chance to just go out and the weather's halfway nice.
Yeah, I bet. Willamette Valley, that's where the Oregon Trail ended, wasn't it?
Yeah, in Oregon City, which is
okay.
not too far from where I am.
So obviously your family did not die of dysentery.
No.
That's funny. Yeah, I've yet to make it to Oregon. I need to go up there. I want to go up to that Big Loop rodeo there in Jordan Valley. That has always seemed like a good time. I'd like to go watch the horse team roping, but I haven't made it up there yet. I'll get up there one of these days. But I've met some.
That's really...
I bet I'd like to see that. But yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that's out a little closer to where you are. That And it's kind of once you get past the Cascade, once you get east of the Cascade mountain ranges, it kind of turns into more what a lot of Nevada looks like over there. It's really a diverse state in terms of the different landscapes that it offers. So you got a little bit of everything over here. Where I am, it's pretty much a jungle up in these mountains, and then you get out, you know, just a couple hours east, and you're out in the desert in the sagebrush sea.
Yeah. Well, then you got like the coasties. I've heard some horror stories about coastal cattle out of or is it Coos Bay? That's Oregon.
Yeah. Yeah, what you heard, everything is probably true and then some.
Well, like they said, like it's not that the cattle are bad. It's just like once you bring them off the coast and out to somewhere drier, they fall apart. Even though they're good quality, like really fancy looking cattle, they just fall apart in the feedlot because they're used to that ocean breeze and kind of that humidity coming off the ocean, and then yeah, you get them out to the desert and they just kind of wilt. But yeah, Oregon's it's turned into like it's an intriguing place for me. I need to get up there and do some touring around and check it out a little bit. But one of these days we'll get up there. But have you been to that Jordan Valley rodeo?
I haven't. I keep making plans to go. This year is going to be the year we get to go, and inevitably something always comes up that gets in our way, and that's one that I've really been trying to get out to
I hear it's one hell of a party.
Yeah, yeah.
That's I've noticed that one thing is very common. It doesn't matter what the hat you wear. Doesn't matter if you're riding a spade bit or if you're riding a floating spoon or whatever, or just a grazing bit. Swell fork, wade, tied hard with a 25-foot rope, or your slick horn on a 80-foot riata. When you come to town for the rodeo, the buckaroos and the cowpunchers party just as hard. That's one thing I noticed. When the buckaroos come to town, it's a big time, and it's kind of the same way back home. When there's a big rodeo, it's even if you're not in the rodeo, whether you've even watched a single minute of the rodeo, you're there for the party because it usually is.
Yeah, and there's so much of that kind of back and forth, one style against the other, that you got to kind of talk shit to each other because there's nothing else to do. But at the end of the day, any place I've been, it's all about what you can do and how you do it. You could be out with a buckaroo outfit and have all your gear and your 24-inch taps and your silver mounted saddle, but you can't ride a swinging gait in a windstorm or a rope or anything. It doesn't really amount to much.
Yeah, that's true. I one of the best examples of that I've ever seen is this guy showed up to Brandon. He had a basically brand new trophy team rope saddle, alligator boots, pressed jeans, single pocket button up shirt. His hat looked like it was shaped for an American Hat Company model. Ropiest motherfucker out there, first one to the cap, because we were just heeling and dragging, but ropiest bastard out there. And then when he was on the ground, he was the first one to grab the tail and flank that calf. And just like, well, he may look like a banker, he probably is a banker, but dude is a hand. And so that's one thing. At the end of the day, a hand is a hand is a hand. Doesn't matter if you got an 80-foot riata or a little chicken rope that you tied hard. If you can use it and get the job done, that's what matters. And if you got somebody good on the other end handling a rope, who cares if they're tied hard or sliding rope? As long as the job gets done and nobody gets killed. Even though if there is a wreck, wrecks are usually welcomed that's one of the industries that, you know, most people shy away from wrecks, but in the cowboy world, you're just like, well, it's not too big of a wreck. Let's not get too big of a wreck, but
Right.
yeah, you know, a small wreck's fine. I mean, I don't know how many times I've thrown something at a buddy's horse just hoping he'd fire, and they usually do.
Yeah.
But you know, you don't want them to get hurt. But if they just not be a pussy and ride it out, they won't get hurt anyway. So,
Right. Yeah, you gotta kind of try to create some trouble sometimes on those long days to break up the monotony.
oh yeah, for sure. It's I don't know. Like I was telling somebody is, you know, like the one of the big parts of cowboying, or like especially like telling stories, is one-upsmanship. But then in the, you know, in that line of work, like you can tell the stories, but you got to back it up at some point. So if
Yeah,
you
definitely.
if you try to one up too far, then like you put yourself in a bind. And like that's how the sport of bull riding was invented, because they're like, well, fuck you, I'll ride that bull over there. And they're like, all right,
Yeah.
let's see it. And you're just like, well, fuck, now I got to. So but anyhow, man, it's been a good conversation, Bob. We've already done an hour, a little over an hour. So appreciate you coming on. I guess if you want people to find you on social media, how do they find you?
I'm on Instagram at Feedlot_Bob, on Facebook, Robert Mallory, and that's about it.
Cool, man. Well, hey, thanks for coming on. We'll do it again sometime. We'll get you involved on one of the bull session episodes where we just go off the rails. That's how it usually goes. But it was good talking to you. Good to meet you, and you know, keep on keeping on.
All right. Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Hey, you wanna sign us off, since you're a listener, you know how it goes.
How's it go?
Move your ass. We're burning daylight. Everybody forgets it.
Sorry. Move your ass. We're burning daylight.
Hey, man, you're all right. I appreciate it, bud.